to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, my guest is Dwayne Bergmann, the principal designer and creative director at his South Florida design firm, Dwayne Bergmann Interiors. Dwayne specializes in high-end residential, commercial, and hospitality projects, from architecture and interiors to full-service design build. His work can be seen throughout the United States, Canada, South America, and the Bahamas. Interior design is Dwayne's second career. He has a master's in business and was an executive at Home Depot long before opening his design firm in 2013. He has so much to share today about how he stays connected to his 40 projects and his team of 13 people. You'll definitely want to check out his website, DwayneBergmann.com, to see exactly what types of projects we're talking about. These are next level showstoppers, I have to tell you. So let's get right to it. Let's see what Dwayne's scripted process is and how tight his structure is, which allows not only for a successful business, but allows for his creativity to bloom. Hi, Dwayne. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks for asking me to join today.
Yes, and I'm so grateful that our mutual friend, Ann Feldstein from Moxie PR, connected us. And it's so funny because every time I think of Ann, of course, there's many wonderful things to think about her in her PR firm. But I always think about, and I picture her doing her CrossFit. She's amazing, isn't she?
She is. I absolutely love her energy. And between her CrossFit and her Black Lab, she just has such a cool personality.
I know. Anyway, so I am grateful that she connected us. First of all, any of you listening to this episode, if you are listening stationary, not running, walking, jogging, doing laundry, just take a little minute and go over and look at Dwayne's website before we get started. The work is superior. The work is exceptional. Absolutely amazing portfolio of work, Dwayne. And I'm excited to speak to you because you are one of those firms, a 13-person firm, and you are one of those principal designers that have crafted their firm so that look, I know you take care of the business end. We're going to get into that too, because I know that you have a background in business before you come to interior design, but you've crafted your firm in the way that you get to do what you love to do, which is design. And you have your hand on the design. You've explained to me that you don't do the project management. And I know this is that flex point in a lot of interior designers' businesses when they start to grow and they have started to hire designers to work with them. And they face two challenges in this, in my experience in talking with them. Is the first challenge is how to keep the integrity of their design, their brand, the way that they present and the way their projects are in the world is one challenge point. And the other challenge point is, frankly, running a business and not doing as much of the designing that drew each of you to the career in the first place. And so you said to me that you have a very specific process on the way you run your firm so that you know that the business is taken care of and that you get to do the joy of designing. So should we start out, Dwayne, by maybe just giving an overview of your staff and who's there and what their roles are?
Sure. Yes, I'm happy to share the makeup of the team. Before I do that, I just want to interject for everyone listening out here. This is a difficult process to initially set up, but once you have it set up, it will allow you to do what you love, which is design. I don't think any of us got into this to be a business manager or to be a project manager. We're doing this because we love design. And I had to take a really hard look at my business as I started to grow and make the conscious decision. And I almost went down the path of becoming a business manager and not the creative director for my firm. And I had to ask myself, like, what are you doing? You left a huge corporate role where you were a business manager with a little bit of ability to do some design work and your personal design aesthetic being initiated into that work. You left that to be a designer and to be creative on a daily basis. So stick true to yourself. And it's very tempting as you see, revenue projections and things of different ways of growing your business, as well as the complexities of managing the business itself and being overwhelmed with that side. But I think today, I can share some tools and a process with you that will certainly allow you to be able to do what you love, which is design, while at the same time still run a very efficient and effective business.
Okay.
So that's my little plug.
Well, I love it. And it's so exciting because you're so right. It's not, well, this is just the thing. It's the crux of it. It's that flex point and it's where it hurts. So go ahead, get us started.
And I just want to say it's difficult, but it's not complex. And I always think that even in design, sometimes when we try to overcomplicate things, that's when things start to go awry. And if you sometimes look at a design plan and you go, this is just way too complicated, you trust your gut and you edit it out and then it becomes amazing. I apply that same principle to my business. Why does it have to be so complex? Why does it have to be so difficult to manage? A lot of times it's the simplest practices but done on a repeated basis over and over again until they become just the same way that we are able to pick out color. It's the same root kind of reaction with a process that we need to put in place for our business. Once you get those simple processes in place, then you know what? You don't have to spend as much time and focus on the areas that are not what you got in this business to do, which is to design. So I'll start with my team makeup. So I'm the principal designer of the firm, and I act as the creative director. That is my primary role that I play every day. So the second most important role that I have in the firm is actually not a junior designer or an assistant. It is my chief operating officer. She and I talk regularly. I would say, she's my work wife, and we are certainly connected at the hip. We make all of our strategic business decisions together, but she has the autonomy to run my business. So she manages things like client contracts, all of our billing and proposals, the logistics team. So we have an expediter like most firms that even, 4 or 5 member firms. Those individuals, anyone that's on the operational side and my accountant, they report through to the chief operating officer. So initially, that is what allows me to have one main point of contact to go to when I'm looking at my business reports, which I do on a weekly basis, by the way. I don't think that you can take your eye off of the financial side of your business ever. So you definitely need to make sure that that's built into your plan, that you have time to manage. But I'm managing reports. I'm not managing transactions. So that's a big differentiator. And if you want to be able to work in your business as a creative director and not the business manager, you definitely will need to develop some systems in place where you can manage by report and not manage by transaction. It doesn't mean that I don't look into the details, but the reports have the details if you want to drill down into them. But you have to start to sort of, manage through these ups and downs. And if something looks askew, then you go in and do the deep dive. But on a regular basis, if it's like, okay, yes, here are my purchase order reports, my receivables and my payables, and everything looks like it should, then you go on and you trust the people that you have in place. I always look at my bank statements and my financial statements. Again, you do have to follow the cash. So while I have an extremely high level of trust and belief in the integrity of this individual, it's not the the ever that I have any doubt of that they would want to do the right thing. It's just maybe they made a mistake, or they might not have understood a directive properly. So always follow your cash, but manage your reports, not transactions. So my number two, as I was saying, is the chief operating officer. Um, her cast. We have an expediter who also um, co-manages the design showroom, so she has kind of a double role. And then we have an accountant that is a full-time accountant that works on our business. So on the other side, then we get into the design team. So I have three senior designers on staff. We have junior designers that are paired up with them, and design assistants that are part of that makeup. I have two individuals that do nothing but CAD work and 3D rendering work. So they sort of are our go-to team from the design perspective when we need to have our ID drawings put together. So again, it allows our my senior and junior designers, they all have the ability to draw and to design either freehand or in AutoCAD or SketchUp. But when it comes down to shop drawings or the minutia, we're able to hand that off to a couple of individuals that's all they do. They're not really client facing. They are more behind the scenes, making sure that our detailed drawings are perfect every time they go out. And then I have a marketing director who is a part of my team, and she really makes sure that we have our best face forward in every opportunity that we have. And I think it's a really key role. It's a privilege to have that role. And I think because we do run a very tight business plan, we are able to have that role. But it also allows me to not have to play the networking publicist role that you really need to be able to play in order to make sure you're getting published, that you're getting quoted, and you're getting engaged and involved in all of the right opportunities within your local geography. So that's sort of the makeup of our team. And I also think that you have to put a lot of focus into the type and personality of the individual that you're hiring in order to make it work when you start to grow to this size. They certainly have to be independent minded, yet want to be a part of a team and not necessarily just looking to have a couple of years of experience and then to go out on their own. So I definitely think that you have to focus, in that interviewing and hiring capacity, really understand the strengths that each person brings to the table. But if you get the right makeup of the team, you certainly can be the creative director and manage every single project that you have, while focusing on the design details and not focusing on all of the minutia that is required in order to make each project a success.
So I love the structure. Number one, I think it's awesome and very clear. And you have your firms divided, business side, design side. You sit at the top of it. I love, Dwayne, that you said that you are looking at your reports every week and that you're managing the reports rather than the transactions. So clever and so smart. And I love that you did mention the reason, you're looking at the reports is you're looking for the top view of making sure everything looks copacetic, right? But if something all of a sudden feels a little like, wait a second, why is cost of goods on that particular project at this level? You can click on and dig deep down and then say, oh, we've maybe like you said, it's not malice, it's more negligence or just an honest mistake that somebody, maybe they put 16 sofas in the wrong job, right? And it's
Exactly.
it's like, wait a minute, those go to Mrs. Smith's job, right?
Correct.
And the thing is, it does take multiple people looking at everything, right? It's that we're all busy, and it's the same way we operate at WindowWorks and also at the podcast. Is it goes through 2 or 3 sets of eyeballs just so that every person puts their eyeballs on it, and it's just like the safety of the check and the double and the triple check. And I also love that you look at your financial statements every day. Now you sound like my husband because this is his morning. It's his life cereal and his shredded wheat mixed together with his coffee, and then it's at the computer looking at all the credit cards and all the bank statements.
Correct.
It's like, you could set your clock by them every single day, 7 days a week, even Saturday and Sunday. It's like, all right, finish my cereal. Let me take my coffee, go to my computer, and open everything up. So usually right after that, Dwayne, it's, Lou, did you use the Amex card for this? Did you do the Visa card for that? And I'm like, yes, I did. Yes, I did. But you know what's so funny is just last week, we discovered that like 8 domain names that I no longer want or need auto-renewed on GoDaddy. And it was like $245. And he said, did you just renew a bunch of stuff on GoDaddy? I'm like, no. He's like, yes, you did. And so this is how you find this if you don't look every day, right?
Exactly.
And so then, of course, we made the call and we're like, we don't want these. Wait. So, okay. So love, love, love it. All right. Now, where there's 2 parts of you being able to be the creative director, and as you said at the top of the show, being able to stay in the part of the business that you love, or at least spend a good amount of time in the part of the business that you love, which is designing. There's 2 parts that have to go into that. You have to know that your team is capable of designing to the level, like you can't have a team that's capable of designing, but every time you go to look at it, you're editing 3/4 of it, right? They have to be able to, you have to have a process, and you have to have the promise that when they bring the project to you for your review, that you're going to elevate it. You're going to make some suggestions, but you're not like, redlining and throwing half of the project out with the bathwater. So tell us about, how does that happen, Dwayne? Is it you internally, in that training process? Is there a design guide that you use? Is it, in the interview process and having them do boards? Like, what is that like?
Sure. So the answer is way simpler, and I think very elementary to what most will think. Because what we did was we created a process that we follow for every client, regardless of the size of the project and regardless of the budget or the number of team members that are involved. So we have an 8-phase process that we go through. It starts with client acquisition. So this is a little bit more of the behind the scenes, phase 0. So phase 0 would have details like, the phone call or the inquiry coming in, looking at the type of project that it is, and vetting it out and just seeing if this is a project we want to pursue, all the way through the client signing their contract. So at client acquisition is a little bit more of me engaging with a potential client, or my COO, engaging with the client and just understanding what the scope, what the size, their expectations. And at that juncture, once we have a signed contract, then we move into phase 1, which is orientation and programming. This is the key phase that I think a lot of times it's tempting to skip through this phase. This is where we bring the client in and we meet with them with whoever is going to be a part of their team. And by understanding their high level scope of work, because we all know that the scope of work that you sign during, your contract phase, it always gets adjusted at some point, because there's always scope creep, or, there are changes that are being made. But I'll make an educated decision based off of their scope on the members of the team that need to be a part of the project. So once the team is assigned, then we have these initial orientation and programming meetings. And this is where, we go through our initial client conversations and we ask them some very detailed questions. A lot of things that I think are probably proprietary to, to our firm, that are not focused so much on the nuts and bolts of color and texture and, do you need 3 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms or, those kinds of things, but a little bit more on the, their lifestyle and how they want their home to feel, for example. So we focus on a little bit more of these secondary or tertiary components, which usually feed those primary answers that we need. And we always ask the whys behind those. So those conversations happen during our phase one orientation and programming. Upon the conclusion of these initial meetings, where we'll show concept photos and things like that just to get feedback, the whole eye chart part of our process, which do you like A or what do you like about this photo or, do you like B or C and, all of those things. So when we complete our phase one, then I immediately have a meeting with the design team and we establish a design direction where we will say, okay, let's start creating the mood board for this project. And here are the feelings that we want to invoke. Here are maybe some initial color palette inspirations that we want to pursue. Here are some floor plan details that I think we need to review further. So after that meeting, I mean, we'll develop we always take meeting notes, but we'll develop a basis for the design direction for that project. That allows us to move into our phase two, which is conceptual design. That's when we're starting to create, imagery and options and different potential specifications for the client. We go through that phase with the client, which moves into we have specifications development as our phase three, production and documentation, phase four, all of our general contractor and third-party vendor management as phase five, the implementation or construction phase as phase six, our project completion as phase seven, and then phase eight is our client satisfaction. So, I have charts and very detailed deliverables for each of these phases. So the designers understand as we're going through each part of these components that this is what the expectations, and it's written out. Like at this phase, we're delivering X, Y, and Z. At this phase, we're delivering, A, B, and C. So everybody knows, what the expectations are. And they also know that during, parts of the process that you might have 80% of the home in production and documentation, but we're still stuck in conceptual design in the kitchen. And so, we still haven't finished those deliverables. So this organizational process and taking the time to have it very detailed out what the expectations are, is what allows us to be so creative because we're no longer trying to guess or, having to depend upon our own desires, to move how we move a project forward. It's a very specific path. We do it the same way every single time. So that's the first key. And I did spend a decent amount of time developing this and training my staff on it. So that's key number one. Key number two is something that I believe is probably one of the biggest success factors for my firm. And when I have some moments in my schedule where I deviate from this plan, then I see my team struggle. So this is why I think it's the most important thing. So I've established Tuesdays are my one-on-one days. And what that means is I do not schedule vendor meetings. I do not schedule client meetings. I spend from 8 a.m. until sometimes 7 or 8 p.m. meeting one-on-one with my design team. So we go through every project, the goals for the project, where we are in the current phase of the project, any challenges that the designers might be facing from a project management perspective, any challenges over the last 6 or 7 months that we've been facing with logistics management, which we've all probably experienced thanks to our supply chain struggles. But it is a critical, an absolutely critical component, because having that face-to-face one-on-one, and during COVID we did these via Zoom, and it was, so if you don't have, and one of my team members actually lives in Austin, and so we do these via Zoom. They're just as effective, but it's more about having uninterrupted, independent time with your design team and with your team to go through the intricacies of the design details. So, they never go so far down a path that I can't realign to the vision of the project. Or, maybe the client has contacted me or sent me some little bit of information that I forgot to email, because, for sure, I'm not the best communicator every day. My email inbox, like everyone else's, gets jam-packed, and it's like, oh goodness, I forgot to tell you that she doesn't want the pot filler anymore. They want, they need to have, a rain head and 2 shower heads, and I'm so sorry you've done all the drawings for the bathroom. We're going to have to go back and add all of these things. So it happens. But what it allows is that we never go more than, like, at worst case scenario, we would be a week without me having a specific dedicated conversation about the projects that you're working on. So those two very simple things, developing a process for your business to follow with every single project, that every client is going through these phases, and do not deviate from what you establish. And then the same thing with having a routine where you are meeting specifically to do nothing other than to discuss the details of the projects that each designer is working on, have been the keys to what we're able to produce. And we don't produce cookie cutter designs. As you referenced earlier, if you do check out our website, we start from scratch with every single client. And typically one of the things we're noted for is if we use a decorative fabric or a decorative wallpaper in a client's home, we'll very rarely and mostly never ever use that again on a project. So we are really trying to create personalized design, and it would just be impossible to do without this structure, because the structure allows the creativity to flow uninterrupted, it's truly been the secret sauce for our success and for the designs that we're able to produce.
I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. It is just, it's so funny because it just makes me think of my cousin Eileen Hahn, who is a organizational consultant. And you don't know this, Dwayne, but my listeners know that she works with firms, 3 people in a firm, or all the way to Anheuser-Busch and Legoland, right? And she is our business coach at WindowWorks. And if I had a nickel for every time she said, Lou, are you having regular one-on-one meetings with every person on your team, right? And I hear you when you said, this works for me, and anytime I deviate from it, I see that my team pays the price, the business pays the price, the client pays the price. I mean, you didn't use those words, but that's what you said, right?
No, trust me. I can go further and say, like, we have had to, for various either personal reasons or just from a sheer volume of client meetings, have had to deviate from the one-on-ones. And if they get rescheduled for more than 2 weeks, I can absolutely, without a doubt, tell you that the firm starts to develop the little twitches and the hiccups, and it's like chaos will ensue so quickly. So I just cannot express that this one simple activity, and it truly was. I can point to the time and the time frame when I made the decisions to enact these one-on-ones. And it is the key differentiator for 2 things. One, the quality of the projects but two, my own personal happiness. So it's a lot of work, but I get to do what I love to do now. And who doesn't
Mm.
want to do that? So, you know what? Some days it's torture. So my husband, he's like, "Oh yeah, today's your Tuesday day. So I'll take care of the kids and I'll make sure that they're in bed and everything is taken care of because I am literally wiped out
Oh, I can imagine.
by the end of the day. But again, it's so worth it. So, for anyone listening out there, if you only take one thing away from today, schedule a one-on-one with every member of your team the same time every week and make it happen. It
Wow.
will be the best thing that you've ever done for yourself.
Amazing, amazing. And when my cousin listens to this show, she's going to be like, "I've been telling you this for
I told
10
you so.
years." Oh my goodness. Okay, so I have a couple of questions in the doing of it. So you have three senior designers. I'm not sure what you call them, leads, the seniors, whatever, but you have three design teams, the senior with the junior. Is the meeting, Dwayne, individually, or is it the senior with the junior because you're going through the project, or are you literally having, and also it's just the design team, or is it the whole office team too? Are you literally having 13 meetings in those? Tell us a little bit about the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so I am focusing. I originally I had meetings with every single team member every week, and that was it was exhausting. So what I've done now is I have actually split it up. So I meet with the design team and my COO every week. And then I meet with the operations and marketing team every other week on a Thursday.
Okay.
So just because of the size, and also on the operations side, um, we found the weekly meetings were a little bit too repetitive because I mean you're looking at reports and you're talking about longer term initiatives, and it's just not enough time to get enough done over the course of a week to come back and have a meaningful report back to me. So again, I think that would be the area of maybe you look at your business and you decide what rhythm works best for you. But I can tell you with the designers, weekly, it really needs to be weekly. You just can't go because this business, the design changes too much, and clients, they have different wants and needs. So let me tell you a little bit of the nuts and bolts. So I just meet with each individual designer, and I meet with the junior designers as well, but I don't repeat anything that they're working on with someone else. So if they're assigned to a project and there's a senior designer, that's project managing that, I expect the senior designers to go back and communicate
Right.
properly and effectively.
Right.
That's the way that they're going to grow and develop as good communicators as well. So, don't spoon feed your team. They have to be capable of making decisions and becoming effective leaders on their own as well. So I am not a micromanager by any stretch. I probably give maybe in some cases a little bit too much room, but again, because we're staying in touch on a weekly basis, you can never get too far, too far down a path. But on those little details, with how they're going to execute and the amount of time that they need to dedicate to those, I don't say, look, make sure you're getting this done, over the next 2 hours. It's, they need to look at their schedules and be able to plan accordingly for the meetings and the commitments that we have made. And we'll review those. I will say that in these meetings, one of the biggest things that I control are priorities. So I think one of the things with design firms of all sizes, it's very easy to have analysis paralysis or just to feel overwhelmed and you just can't get anything done. So anytime we have any discussion about, well, we have this meeting coming up and we have the next client in 2 days, what do you want me to focus on? We'll agree to the priorities and what deliverables need to be completed for each of those commitments. And that just takes off this whole level of anxiety from my design team because it's difficult for them to say, okay, well, I know there are other things that are, that you're involved with, but how should we how should we spend our time? So I take that role and I immediately alleviate that complete anxiety that that they would have otherwise.
Okay. And then, so when you are going, what I love is, to go back to your 8 phase process. I love that we can't go by it. We can't go by the fact that you did for us an overview of the 8 phase process, but you said each phase has directly written deliverables. And I'm sure there's deliverables that are client facing, and then the list of things that internally you have to do in order to produce those deliverables at each phase. And so I can see the meetings every week with the lead designers. I can understand how it's, where is the project? This deliverable, we're in, like you said, the kitchen's in phase 4, but the bathroom still is stuck in phase 2. So you can have a very clear meeting of bring these things together, and they know what they need to do to get to each phase. You're reviewing it. I also think this is the magic in the pain point of other principals that I've spoken to where they get to the point. Now, they never go to presentation to a client without reviewing the process, but I've heard over and over, so we have our meeting 3 days or a week before the client presentation, and I'm, crossing out half the items, going, not that kind of chandelier, like, what are you doing with this kind of sofa? So you never get to that point, right? Because they're bringing you the ideas and you're looking through the concepts, and you're never so far away that you're ever at the point where you're trying to, like, oh my goodness, we're starting from scratch or starting from half, right? You're tweaking as you
Right.
go,
So,
right?
right. We've been there. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. I have looked at a presentation, I hate to say an hour before a meeting, and I'm going, okay, this is going to be really fun because I know what the client is expecting, and this doesn't look like it. So that was a few years ago, and I was like, I'm never going to do this again.
Right.
Like, this is ridiculous. I feel like a total fraud having to stand here and go through this when I'm going,
You don't even love it yourself, right?
we were thinking, you might want to go in this direction. I'm like, well, I sound so wishy-washy, and I'm not a wishy-washy designer. I pretty clear path for what how I think a project should go and the options that we should present. So no, we establish, so a couple of things. And we have, again, I rely on tools. So we have a client workbook that has all of our clients listed. And this is something that my operations manager maintains. And she also does a lot of our scheduling. So every next meeting is in this spreadsheet. So you can go through and you can see all of the next meetings that are scheduled. And then the next column over has, required activities to be ready for the meeting. So you literally, can, okay, these are the things that have to happen. So when I'm able to go through the one-on-ones on Tuesdays, I sit there and I go, okay, we have meeting with, the Smiths on the 14th. So we are expected to present X, Y, and Z again. So we're going to go over, the floor plan and some initial concepts, maybe some elevations for their kitchen. So, where do we look like? And let me see where we are. And then that's when we make the edits. So yesterday, Tuesday. So, yesterday I had all of my one-on-ones, and, one of the meetings that I had yesterday, we're preparing a furniture presentation with budget for our client's next meeting on the 9th. So at this juncture, I've seen everything. So I've already seen, 90% of what's being delivered. And the only things that I had commented in my previous one-on-one was I wanted to see a few more lighting fixture options because I thought we could give them a slightly different feeling by just adjusting the light fixtures that we were showing. Because again, with clients, you could say, okay, there are very subtle differences. They're still well within the design direction that we want to go, but this one could feel just a touch more one way, and this one could feel a touch more the other. So in the previous week, we had went through and we had, I said, look, I want to see some more light fixtures. So in this meeting, I went through probably 10 additional light fixture options, and I chose the 3 or 4 that I wanted to see for the presentation. And then we went through the budget. I know how much we're presenting. And it's just a matter of a couple of fabrics. So there isn't this last minute hurry up and rush. I feel really confident about what we're presenting, and that's what has to happen. So as the creative director, this feedback that you're providing allows your design team to go and scour all of the options for specifications. So for lighting, for furniture, for side tables. I'll still go in sometimes during a meeting and I'll go look up a source that maybe they haven't looked at and I'll say, what about this? And then, okay, well, that looks great. We have no idea how much it costs because that's a totally custom company. So, okay, we'll go look and see if this is outside of the budget that we've established. Then look for something similar. These are the qualities that I like about this piece. And, again, your design team is very talented. That's if you give them that much direction,
right?
Like, here's what I like about it.
Right.
I like the color. I like this texture. I like this scale, whatever it is. If they can't take that feedback and go and bring you 5 other options to look at, then you might have to do a little reassessment.
Right.
But my team can. I very confidently can tell them, give them just the right feedback, and then they'll run with it. And they'll bring me the most amazing options that I would have never been able to find on my own. And that's the beautiful part about this, because that's when the collaboration starts to stick in, but you're never presenting a design that you don't feel like you were 100% involved with the overall direction.
Isn't that something? You see, that is like you said, it is the secret sauce of it, because you've maintained an ability to truly do what you love to do, which is to be integral to the design. But at the same time, you're developing designers within your firm. You're teaching them, time management, project management, budget management, and broadening their horizons when the more experienced one, is saying, love, 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 how about this, right? And then they just, whoa, didn't think of that. And I love every part of it. And also the other part is, which I think that a lot of designers struggle with. It's funny because to me, I don't know if you even remember, but in the beginning I said it's a 2-phase question. And I said in the first phase is, how do you handle it? And the first question is, how do you handle it internally? And what I thought 25 minutes ago when we talked about this, I was going to say, and the second question is, how do you express it externally to your clients that you're not in the weeds? But the reality is you're in the weeds on everything that matters to them, which is the outcome, right? That matters to the client, which is the outcome. And so there is no, saying, how do I prepare a client that I'm going to be there at the beginning and I'm going to be there at the end. And I promise I've reviewed everything in between, because you're not just looking at it the day or the week before presentation. You're actually every week in the weeds of the design, not in the weeds of the sourcing and the pricing and all the other nonsense, right?
Exactly. And so the clients are always, they're always involved with the designers that are, because I always say I'm not the project manager. I will maybe project manage 1 or 2 projects a year, and there's usually a very specific reason why I'm doing that. And it's because of the client and the relationship that I have with the client. And that's okay. But 98% of our clients, in the meeting, I say, look, this individual is going to be your project manager. I'm going to be on all the communications that, go back and forth related to the design of your project, and I will be overseeing the design of your project. Your proposals, your presentations, your meeting notes, the drawing details are going to be prepared and reviewed and provided, by this project manager and the team of individuals that I have here. And it's a twofold process too, because it's like, some of our clients, it's a fixed fee, but others are hourly. It's like, you don't want me sitting there doing your CAD drawings. Like, you don't want to pay my rate for me to do CAD drawings. Likely, if I'm doing your CAD drawings and it's your fixed fee is going to be double.
Right.
So you
pay one way or another.
Yeah. You want my team to be involved. But the difference is exactly what you said. In the meetings or in a phone call or when a contractor calls, I'm not playing catch up. I know what's going on because one, I know where we are in the phases of our project because we have that structure. So I know what we should have done and what have not completed yet.
Right.
I also know, because of the one-on-ones, what the hot buttons of the project are, and the details. So I can tell you, we have probably 40 projects, 40 active clients right now, and I can pretty much tell you the design direction to a pretty low level detail of what's going on, like fabrics and pillows. Like, if you said, are we putting this fabric in or that fabric? I can pretty much tell you what's going on in there. But that's because of the collaborative nature. And I'm able to focus on, again, what is most important to this brand, which is the result of the home and the client experience. And that's where I've chosen to focus the majority of my time.
It's so funny because when you hear it expressed like this, it's like you said at the beginning. It's pretty simple. It's not necessarily easy to do in the day to day, but it's pretty simple to just make a commitment to having a very clear process that everybody on your team. So the thing is where it could break down. If someone said, oh, that's great, I'm going to have meetings with my senior designers every Tuesday, just like Dwayne does. But if you don't already first have each phase so clearly enunciated, it's sort of those Tuesday meetings can be, well, did you do this part? Oh, no, I forgot that part. Well, how am I going to sit here and approve the plumbing that you've selected if you haven't done this yet? Oh, I didn't know I had to do that first. Like, it's chaos. It's still chaos.
Exactly.
You're just talking about the chaos now instead of, right? And so it starts with getting it clarified what their job is. And I would imagine that part of that process, you tell me, as I'm thinking about it, if it were me, I would say to each of my seniors, and they would know it as time goes by, the rhythm of the meetings, but it's walk me through this. Walk me through, where are we on the deliverables? What are the thing? And now let me review all the selections and the processes and blah, blah, blah. But it's like they should be able to sit down with you and lead pretty much the discussion if you require them to, because they know where they are based on the 8-point list of all the different things that you are supposed to be doing, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I'll share some of those. So I do have it broken down. So like phase 1, client orientation and programming. So I have it broken down in between activities and deliverables. So like some of the activities at this phase 1, orientation meeting number 1, what is expected. So it's the scope of work affirmation and clarification, the client questionnaire review, any client inspiration photos and product review, confirm any drawings that are available for the project, any additional programming information like emails, measurements, photos, any inventory that they want to use, site visits, etc. Everything needs to be documented. And then schedule meeting number 2 or number 3 to review. Like those are all of the activities that have to be done, by the designer, by the project manager right at phase 1. The project management document has to be developed. The project deliverable, the project deliverables have to be developed. A critical path timeline and the design phases are identified in case, because sometimes we are not doing the execution part. We are very rarely, but every now and then we'll have a phase that we're done at documentation, and that's our part of the process. But inspiration, storyboard development, and then those all correlate to what are the deliverables to the client. So the orientation meeting, where we're going to review the agenda, meet the complete team, go through their client questionnaire, schedule their follow-up meetings, present to them the project management document, including initial high-level budgets for their scope of work, go through their project deliverable presentation. We go over their client responsibilities and any assignments that are required on their side, the client responsibility piece. We go over their inspiration storyboard presentation, and then we update the scope of work if needed based on their feedback. And then at the end of every single meeting, we create meeting notes, and the designers are required to update their project management documents and any changes to the to the project timeline or the project budget are noted. So there is an organizational process. That's just that's phase one. What I just reviewed with you is all part of phase one. So times 8. But I will
Right.
tell you,
That's what it takes, right?
yes, and the amount of time that we invested in creating this structured process, which is a roadmap to success, that each one of us can follow, was extremely worth it, because again, this is the structure. Now we don't have to have questions about, well, what should we be doing in this meeting?
Right.
You know what's supposed to happen in the meeting. It's clearly drawn out for you. So we don't even have those questions. And
Yeah.
The other thing I find, with us creatives is that we never are dramatic, right? I mean, there's like zero drama in our lives ever. It just doesn't happen. So the ability to remove, as much, drama and anxiety as possible allows the creativity to flow. So that's the psychology behind this. So, it's a very well scripted 8-phase process, again, with a dependent, every Tuesday, this is what your day is going to look like. And again, the organization with the structure has just allowed the creativity to bloom.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's so easy to really grasp the concept and to understand how it really will translate into a much better managed interior design firm. It's outstanding. I have one tiny little question. So when you have your meeting, you said you are meeting with the juniors on the Tuesday as well, but it's understood. You're not going to sit there and review the same project with them. You task that senior to go back and relay the information and get the junior up to speed. Are you doing basically your basic check-in mentoring type session with the junior on their experience in their firm and their skill set and that sort of thing? What does that little meeting entail?
Yeah, I do. I don't. We do that probably every 6 months.
Okay.
So I'm not the most touchy-feely rah guy. I have to admit that as well. I think it's very important. We need to know, the overall welfare of your team. I think it's extremely important. But don't make these meetings about, how are you feeling? How's your life? I mean, that chit chat, my opinion anyway, if that is how you structure these meetings, you're going to miss a lot of the value, because this is a business meeting. That's what I do during lunches, and we bring in lunches, or we'll have an afternoon cocktails and stuff like that. Don't make this about connecting as much as it is about this is the success of the projects. This is what we need to do to move everything forward. So these should very much be business meetings.
Okay.
I don't go over time off and all of those those things. Every now and then they come up and we'll discuss them, but that is not an agenda item that I list in these meetings. So yes, I do believe mentoring, guidance, development, all of those things are important, but I don't think that should be a major part of this agenda.
They have a separate time and
derailed.
place.
Absolutely.
The Tuesdays are about the projects and moving the projects along and making sure that the team is all going in the same direction. Okay, I get that.
Exactly.
And so I'm sorry. So were you saying then that is it really that between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. that by the time you have an in-depth project meeting with each of the seniors and, have bio breaks and so forth, that's really the day. In other words, you don't have these additional single meetings with the juniors. You leave that to the seniors to do, and those types of check-in meetings and employee development meetings happen in a different place. Is that what I understand? So maybe you're having 2 or 2.5 hour meetings with each of the seniors during the day?
No, it depends. I mean, I'll still usually meet with the juniors, because a lot of times the juniors are presenting specifications on different.
Oh.
So instead of the seniors coming in and saying, "Hey, here are all your specs for this." Like if the junior designer is working on, all the plumbing specs.
Okay, understood.
That
Different
kind of thing.
aspects.
I'll go through and look at it. Or a lot of times it's, the actual developing the presentation with components that we've pulled
sense.
together, or, let's lay out all the fabrics so that I can go through the fabrics with you and tell you what I like and what I don't like, get these things ordered. So there's some of that. I mean, because again, that's part of their development is one, presenting to me, two, understanding how to decipher the feedback. Because, again, I don't always give I just don't like it. It needs to be different. Well, what do you don't like about it? I don't know. I just don't like it.
Can't you just see it doesn't look right?
Yeah, I mean, so I would love to say I'm always giving the most beautiful, perfectly detailed directions, but sometimes it's I don't know what I don't like about it. I just don't like it.
Right.
Maybe
Find
it's the
something
color.
else.
Maybe it's just, but yeah. Or I just don't like it, period. So we just need to take a whole different direction. But those are the earlier meetings, with a project. And sometimes they'll surprise me. They'll be like, hey, look at the sketch I'm working on. I just thought this could work. And that's what these meetings should be about. And back to your earlier questions, keep them focused on design and take care of the other things, the human relationships, the HR side and the connectivity side at a different, different time.
I love it. And what it is that's my not, I hear there's, how your brain knows two things at the same time and it doesn't focus on them both. So on one hand, I absolutely understand the level and myriad of details that are required to put together a design firm. But because I don't do it, sometimes the other part of my brain isn't really focusing on that. So I could see that just because the junior is working under the lead, there's a lot of things that junior is doing in the course of their week that it does benefit from you having a check-in and a say on that process with them each week too, even though that's happening between the junior and the lead throughout the week. So it makes sense. There's so much on a project that you can have a meeting with the lead and cover 5,000 details and a meeting with the junior and cover another 5,000 details all separately.
Exactly.
Right. I get it. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. And in that process, to your point, you're grooming that junior to your vision. And so that junior will ultimately be more valuable to their lead because they're not only learning from the lead, but they having that one-on-one time with you too, and really understanding the way your design brain ticks and the way your aesthetic, works and so forth. So cool. I mean, so cool.
So I hopefully fulfilled what I told you would be, it's simple, not complex, but it takes a commitment,
yes.
a major level of commitment to make it work.
Yes. It takes that, if you don't have the fully fleshed out 8-step, 10-step, 12-step, 15-step, whatever your step process is, right? Out. It takes putting the brakes on and starting and doing and making the commitment to creating that first. And that's hard. It's, I've had a designer tell me, it's like I'm running the car, I'm building the car as I'm racing down the road at 65 miles an hour, right? And so the only way around. Right. I love it. I say it on the show all the time because when the designer said it, I was like, oh my God, yes.
Yes.
We've all been there, right? But the thing is, when you are starting out, this is the ideal. I have to think of my friend Sarah Brennan. She built her firm. She only did that crazy, chaotic process for 6 months. And she listened to the podcast show after show to smart people like yourself. And she just said, no. I am stopping. And, it's a well-told story on the podcast when she, called me one time and I was coaching her and she's like, well, I have my 12 steps. I'm like, all right, and she goes, but it still keeps falling apart. It still keeps not working. I'm not delivering on time and clients are upset and I'm stressed and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, all right, for example, take step 2. What's under step 2? And she's like, well, that's design presentation, whatever. I'm making up what step 2 is. And I'm like, okay, so what's in step 2? She goes, well, design presentation. I'm like, oh, see, this is the problem. It's exactly. Not the 10 steps by name. It's the blowout of the 10 steps. And I love that. And Sarah has since done that. She has the client-facing deliverables in each step and the things that the team has to do internally. And I love that. Yes, I love the way you call it, the activities of this step and the deliverables of that step. That's so clear. It's the things that we do do in order to deliver these things to the consumer. And so it's so awesome. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. You know that this is going to be one of the shows, Dwayne, that designers all over the world email me, Instagram me, DM me, and say, I had to listen to this show 3 times because you gave so much specific information. And I'm so grateful for you for doing that. And it really, you hear me, I don't run an interior design firm and I'm jazzed up from this. So.
Good. Very good.
No, honest to goodness, thank you so much for sharing all of that and helping us understand that there is a way to build a successful, larger firm and still have your hand in the part that you love, which is design. You don't have to separate yourself. If that's your goal, that's okay. Like you said, you considered, should I be a business manager, right? Take on more, do more projects, but then ultimately be the business manager. And you have figured out a very straightforward, easy to duplicate way to have not just, when I say is, a lot of times a designer will say to me, I don't want to grow beyond 3 or 4 because I don't want to ever not design. And so this is the antidote to that. So thank you so much, Dwayne, for sharing it.
My pleasure, LuAnn. It's been such a fun podcast speaking with you today. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you again for inviting me to participate. I love what you do. And I love the fact that you're helping designers, all of us, improve our businesses. So thank you so much for what you do.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Pretty fantastic, right? I mean, how does he do it? What? Well, it's step by step, right? Structure, process, check-ins, execution, rinse, and repeat. This is what success looks like. It doesn't matter if you have a $500 project or a $5 million project. This is the roadmap for success. It's not, I don't have time, I don't really feel like having a full day of meetings today. It's what we refer to as no excuses. Make the time, do the work, and see the fruits of your labor. What I especially love is Dwayne's motive for putting this business structure and process in place. He designed it this way specifically to allow him the time and headspace to do what drove him to this business in the first place, design, right? Now, the process isn't exactly uniquely brilliant, but it is brilliant in its simplicity. It is a straightforward, clear, multi-step process that allows Dwayne and his team to have room for creating, and it allows also too for the close mentorship and guidance that it takes to develop designers under you, designers who can understand your vision, your aesthetic, and your design standards, okay? Let's review the different members he has on his team and the process they use to make these spaces come to life that we have seen on his website, okay? So first of all, he has a chief operating officer. This is his number 2. This woman handles a lot. In addition to helping Dwayne with the strategy decisions, she does the logistics and directs the operations staff and the accountant. Then he has an expediter who co-manages the design showroom, a full-time accountant, 3 senior designers, 3 junior designers, design assistants, 2 people doing CAD and SketchUp, and a marketing director. This is a heck of a team, right? And now we see why Dwayne needs a very detailed execution plan with accountability and processes in place so he doesn't have chaos on a day-to-day basis, right? Now, let's review that process that he has in place. So stage 0, right? Dwayne works directly with the client from the initial meeting to creating a high-level scope of work and landing the signed contract. Then stage 1, orientation and programming meetings. He assigns the team. He meets with the team to create the plan. He meets with the client to further develop the basis for the design. Stage 2, conceptual design. His staff will create imagery, create options, pull potential specifications. Stage 3, specification development. Stage 4, production and documentation. Stage 5, GC and third-party vendor management. Stage 6, implementation or construction phase. Stage 7, project completion. Stage 8, client satisfaction. These 8 steps we know, you know that these are the broad strokes, right? Every single step is broken down into specific activities and deliverables. And it's these details that Dwayne reviews with his team on a weekly basis. He has charts for each phase so that every designer knows exactly what the expectations are and what the detailed deliverables are with the dates. And if you're thinking, OMG, can I possibly keep this organized? I hear you, but yes, you can with help from MyDoma Studio. MyDoma gives you one spot for orders, invoicing, online payments, design package creation, product sourcing, time tracking, and even a client portal if you want to use it. You can stay on top of your design business by going to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. That's mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. Okay, so Dwayne has the team and the process, but don't overlook the secret sauce. That entire day each week that he dedicates to one-on-one meetings with his design team and his COO. These meetings are about reviewing the minutia, right? The details of every project. So at go time, he's proud to present the final project and he is in line with it, like it's his vision. He knows it's right? So it's on brand. It's Dwayne Bergmann. It's everything his clients expect and no surprises. How many times have you been surprised the day before presentation? You've looked at something your team has put together and you thought, this isn't going to fly. I can't present this. What happened? Where was the disconnect, right? So for Dwayne, he never has to deal with that. He's been overseeing everything. He's been contributing. He's been editing. He's been guiding. He's been approving. And he's been revising in real time as his team has been bringing the project together. Dwayne told us that he expects his designers to take the feedback from those meetings and run with it. And he advises, don't spoon feed your team. They have to be capable of making decisions and they have to become effective leaders. It's genius. I mean, this is it's genius, right? Like that's not an editing mistake. It is genius, okay? You can't grow and scale. You can't even take a darn vacation if you're the only one in the building who knows how to do things the way you do them. And Dwayne has very clearly figured out how to teach everybody on his team to do it the way he wants to see it done. I love it, all right? And here's the cool thing. Dwayne's approach to team management and team development can be duplicated, whether you have 1 employee, 10 employees, or 20 employees, right? I love it. So good, so good. Thank you, Dwayne, so much. Now, let me ask you, have you registered for LuAnn Live yet? Early bird tickets are on sale, but they're only on sale until December 31st. Okay, so if you sign up now during early bird period, guess what you get? Not only do you save on your ticket price, because the prices will go up on January 1st, but you also get to join me live via Zoom for 3, not 1, 3 accountability sessions following LuAnn Live. That's right. So after the event's over, 2 weeks later, we're going to meet by Zoom. And then another 2 weeks later, we're going to meet by Zoom. And then another 2 weeks later, we're going to meet by Zoom. Okay? I want you to have accountability. I want you to come to the event. I want you to soak in all the information, but I want you to turn that into action. And so we're going to meet together, you and I and all of your other colleagues that signed up during Early Bird for Q&A, aha moments, and accountability. Period. End of discussion, right? I'm going to ask you, what have you done? What did you decide to do and what did you get done? All right. And I also want to point out that this event, even though it's virtual, just like live in-person events, the tickets are limited. And you know why? Because LuAnn Live is about the conversation. All right. And so just because Zoom can handle 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10,000 people, I can't hardly talk to that many people. So we are limiting the VIP exclusive experience, which is sponsored by East End Interiors, to just 69 people. This way, you are in your Zoom roundtables, 6 of them, by the way, 6 Zoom roundtables, with no more than 2 colleagues and your expert moderator. That's it. You, 2 colleagues, and one of the experts, where you for 30 minutes can ask whatever questions you want. 6 times, okay? So, and if you did not hear last week's show with Sal Campitello from East End Interiors, go back and listen to it. I'm just going to say this, #SmartGuy. Like, enough said. Truly, go listen to it. All right? And the thing is, the 2-day all access level ticket is limited as well, because I need to be able to see you. I need to be able to put my eyeballs on you. You know, just like last year, I also want you to be able to ask the questions of my rockstar co-authors and panelists. You know, we have to be able to do that in a manageable way. And so the only way I can manage that is not to let 2,000 or 3,000 people into the event. It's as simple as that. Because this isn't your average ho-hum virtual event, right? This is LuAnn Live. It's about the conversation, right? So don't get locked out. That's all I'm saying. Don't assume because it's a virtual thing that, you know, there's an unlimited amount of tickets, because no ma'am, no sir, there is not, all right? If you've been listening to the show, you have heard guest after guest over the past year describe how outstanding this was last year. So don't miss it this time. And you know what? No planes, trains, or automobiles are required. You get to sleep in your own bed every night. You get all the knowledge, all the information, and all the strategies you need to make 2021 a banner year for your creative business, right? And I said creative business. Yes, designers, window treatment pros, photographers, web designers, writers, it's all business, folks, and it all applies. Now, having had multiple career disciplines at LuAnn Live last year and in my smaller Power Talk Friday one-day events, I know that it applies across your businesses. Okay, I wouldn't tell it to you if I didn't believe it to be true. So, alrighty, go to LuAnnLive.com and grab the ticket that you want before it's gone. All right? Okay, LuAnnLive.com. Alrighty, make today the day that you decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.